What's up, guys? Buddy Figueroa here, coming at you with a review for the new Rivers of Nihil album, Rivers of Nihil, released this past Friday, May 30th. The self-titled album from this band who have become one of the most beloved and acclaimed acts in modern death metal, or progressive death metal to be a little bit more specific. Their last album, The Work, in 2022, or 2021 I believe it was the final installment in their, I'm not sure what the word is to describe a group of 4 albums, but their series of albums about the 4 seasons. So it kind of makes sense, I guess. I mean, they finished that 4-album run, and then they put out their self-titled album, which is, I feel like a self-titled album is always meant to be the one that really defines the band and defines their sound. I mean, the album is named after themselves. But the thing about this album is that it kind of maintains that same trend that The Work established, which was the band moving slightly away from the death metal side of things in favor of more of the prog metal, progressive metal side of things, at least in comparison to their early work. But that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I always encourage exploration, especially with a band like this that is, I believe this is their 5th album, 5 albums deep. It just wouldn't be as interesting to see them recreate the same album over and over again. So I'm all for the exploration, as long as it's good and interesting and investing. Now, in my opinion, this band's unmistakable peak, and I'm sure many of you will agree with me on this, is their 2018 record, Where Owls Know My Name. That record garnered so much acclaim and almost somewhat of like a cult following. I just remember... And I remember hearing so much about it at the time, and I feel like I still hear so much about that album, especially leading up to this album. For good reason, though. I mean, it was a profoundly ambitious and inspired album that just had so many sharp rights and lefts and all these twists and turns throughout it. Even as someone who at times admittedly finds progressive death metal to be a little bit too dense. And it's one of those albums that for me, even though I didn't check it out like as soon as it released, it's an album that I forgot how good it was until I was re-listening back on it for this review. When I first did check it out a few years ago, I liked it, but I've garnered even more appreciation for it in the last few months leading up to this album. So it was nice having that perspective going into this record, which I think is why I've managed to collect my thoughts together rather quickly for it, because this is still a pretty dense listen. And I'm obviously going to elaborate on every point that I make throughout this review, but I gotta say, based on that appreciation that I've gained recently for Where Owls Know My Name, this album is not nearly as strong as that album. That's like the double-edged sword when you release such an acclaimed record. Every album that follows it is going to be compared to that album. Context is everything a lot of the time. And let's be clear here, Rivers of Nihil is a band that's just so talented that even when they're not at their best, they're still pretty darn good. Getting into specifics now, one of the things that I kind of noticed throughout this album is overall a significantly more simplified riffing style. Again, that in itself is not a bad thing. Like several songs on this record, I noticed that, but I still am able to enjoy the song perfectly fine. A good example of this is track 2, Dustman, which has that main riff that kind of has that like that droning quality to it, that kind of bend, the down, 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 like that repeats several times throughout the song, and it is a pretty straightforward riff as far as like actually playing it. Like, I still fuck with the song though. It's still a pretty aggressive and dynamic song. And then same with the track Despair Church, which is one of the longer tracks on here. It has kind of 2 main guitar parts that reappear throughout the song. You got that initial main one, there's that down, no, down, no. Like, I've heard a lot of shit like that before, let's be honest here. And then there's also that one that is kind of like that chorus section where it sounds kind of like a dive bomb in a way, down. But the thing is, these riffs are still used in songs that are overall pretty interesting, whether that's because of the structure, whether that's because of moments on Despair Church, like the end of the song, which has this gorgeous kind of dual solo going on between the saxophone and the pianos. They still manage to keep things pretty interesting with these songs overall. The only track on this album where the simplistic and somewhat dumbed down riffing style irks me is the track American Death. This is by far my least favorite song on the album. That main 2-note chug riff that again carries through most of the song, whether it's constant or whether it's split up like in those verse sections, it's boring, let's be honest here. And then there's the chorus, which sounds like Walmart brand Mastodon. Like this song is the only true example for me on this album where the band really does oversimplify and really dumb down their sound. But honestly, every other song on here I find to be enjoying, at least for the most part. I absolutely loved the lead single, House of Light, which has just amazing duality between those stomping, heavier groove metal or death metal parts with the more kind of atmospheric, like the intro of the song, for example. When the music first kicks in, you get those kind of echoey, layered vocals, those chiming synths, and the saxophone kind of adding extra layers in the background. And then the song's tied together with just this huge, massive chorus that is one of the most epic moments on the album, which really showcases how great of a clean vocalist that new clean vocalist Andy Thomas is for the band. Formerly, he was from Black Crown Initiate. He is definitely a vital piece into making this album how it sounds, just the clean vocals and how he delivers them. And there's also the matter of bassist Adam Biggs taking over on lead vocal. I was truly amazed at how well he sounds on this album. Like, the band has not missed a beat when it comes to the lead vocals, let me tell you that. The vocal performances on here are absolutely phenomenal. However, on the vocal front, I do have to criticize them for one thing, and it's more of a songwriting point of view. It's that as far as these clean vocal sections and a lot of these choruses in particular, I think the band should have used those style sections a bit more sparingly. Andy is a phenomenal singer, but his voice does have that natural, like, drama to it, I guess, that does make his clean singing parts just feel very, very, like, full and epic all the time. Like, it feels like there's no off switch in that regard. And as a result, for me, a lot of these clean vocal parts feel not only repetitive, but they get to be too much at times for me. Like with the track House of Light that I just said I enjoyed, when it's in the full album context and it comes 2/3 of the way through the album, when that chorus hits, it doesn't have that same mind-blowing factor that it did, at least for me, when I first heard the song as a single. Rather, when the song started, I was kind of in the mindset of, okay, now this song is here, and I feel like I've heard a lot of those ideas already, at least as far as that chorus goes. And simply put, the result of that is that I end up gravitating towards some tracks a lot more than other tracks. In particular, it's the songs that kind of either use the clean vocals in different ways or just don't use that much of the clean vocals. Like, I really like Water and Time still. That's a song that's just a bit more constant all the way through. My favorite track on the album is The Logical End, which, again, as far as the energy, maintains a bit more steadiness the whole time. So that way, like, these clean vocals, when they kick in, they don't just feel like this giant boost of energy like they do on a lot of the other songs. But, like, I have to be honest, Suborbital Blues and Despair Church, House of Light in the album context, and also American Death, like I mentioned earlier, these are songs that I haven't really came back to all that much. Like, the album's only been out for 4 days, and I'm already pretty burnt out of those songs. But that does still leave, still the majority of the album for me to enjoy. Like, the track The Logical End, like I said, is fucking amazing. I love how it just sounds so comfortable with that main riff part being in 5/4 timing. I've always thought it was such brilliant songwriting when a band can use odd time signatures in a way that makes them feel smooth and natural rather than jolting or like it's snapping your attention back into place. And this song's a great example of that. And there's also just several parts throughout the song that I love. Like in that verse section when you got those kind of tribal drums over that stop and start guitar part, that sounds great. And that real atmospheric and mid-tempo chorus is a great backdrop for Andy's vocals to sit in front of, which are a bit more subdued on this song. Again, Water and Time, I'm still really enjoying. I loved it as a single, and I still enjoy it now. The clean vocals in this song, again, are used in ways that kind of give the songs easier flow between the calmer parts in this case and the more larger-than-life chorus. I also just love the atmospherics in this song. The saxophone sounds great, and I especially also enjoyed hearing some clean vocals from Adam on this song. And he sounds great. I think they should have used his clean vocals more on this album, personally. I enjoy the track Criminal as well. That one's got that kind of like quirky, bouncy riff that kind of happens multiple times throughout the song. I've done a great job impersonating these riffs so far, I think. The track Evidence is another huge highlight for me on here. This is just one of the most dynamic songs all the way through. It's got the death and groove metal riffs. It's got that really quirky saxophone part about halfway through the song. It's got that like closed hi-hat breakdown about a quarter way into the song. I think this is one of the songs where the clean vocals are peppered in just enough. It's not like other songs on here like Suborbital Blues and House of Light where it just feels like it's all circling back to this giant just huge sounding chorus. And then there's the title track, I guess the band's self-titled track, which has some of the coolest moments on the album. Like that intro is just so like exotic and again kind of tribal sounding. It sounds great. That's largely in part due to the vocal harmonies. My one frustration with this song, in fact, is that I don't think it was fleshed out enough. I think the band really missed an opportunity here to have this giant epic 8, 9, 10-minute track with this song. Like the song has an excellent build-up, but it's only 3 minutes and 15 seconds, and it doesn't really kick in until there's a little over a minute left. I am completely engaged in this song from front to back. And by the time it ends, I don't think it was satisfying enough personally. I wanted to hear more of this track, especially the fact that it is not just the title track for the album, it's the title track for the band. The song is called Rivers of Nihil. Final line, "You'll be swept away in Rivers of Nihil," is a sick line. But what I'm saying here kind of ties into the overall idea and notion that I feel about this album, and that in general, and especially in the Rivers of Nihil catalog as a whole, it is a lot less ambitious than their best work. Like, take the saxophone sections, which is what this band is known for at this point. Like, that was, I think, one of the main reasons that everyone loved Where Owls Know My Name so much. Just those gorgeous saxophone breaks on tracks like Silent Life and Old Nothing and Subtle Change. They don't really shine as much on this album, even on points like I complimented that ending of Despair Church earlier. As cool as that part is, it's just as much a piano part as it is a saxophone part. On Suborbital Blues and House of Light, they appear, but more as just like some background music for the rest of the band. There are still some cool parts like on Evidence and that saxophone part on Logical End, which is probably my favorite sax part on the whole album. But I gotta be honest, I was hoping, especially with, again, this being the band's self-titled album and the saxophone being such a huge part of who they are based on their last couple of albums, I was hoping it would be a bit more utilized here. That is just my personal taste, maybe, and because the saxophone parts probably are my favorite part of Where Owls Know My Name in particular. And I also understand that in progressive death metal, and any metal for that matter, adding in an instrument like a saxophone, there's really only so many ways you can incorporate that. So I'm not really going to criticize them a whole lot on that part. That's just something more on a personal note that I was hoping to see more of. However, I will still argue that as a whole unit, this album is once again less ambitious overall than Where Owls Know My Name in particular. It is still overall a good album because, like I said, this band, even at not their best, they're still pretty damn good. It just, again, like I said earlier, sometimes context is everything. I will say, though, that I probably do enjoy this album more overall than I enjoyed the work, but I was still hoping for more. And for all of those reasons that I just said, I'm going to score this album a 20 out of 30. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have heard this album, please comment your thoughts on it down below. Check the description of the video for my Instagram, Spotify, and Threads links, as well as a Spotify link to my original music. Remember to hit subscribe for more rock and metal-related content and album reviews. Until next time, thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.